And at the end, so Walter showed up, and we're at this studio down in the Village in New York City. And, you know, he's got a jacket and tie on. You know, these guys have earrings and tattoos and Walter shoes. Beautiful. Anyway, when Walter finished the narration session, the writer John Romanier and I literally had tears in our eyes thinking back to the great Walter Cronkite, who we remember from the moonshot and the Kennedy assassination. And anyway, at the end I was trying to figure out how do I do this, and I had a camera on Walter filming this, and it was the last show he ever did. So I'm quite proud. I've been the producer of the show that Walter Cronkite narrated, and you're going to see that at the end. So I just want to set that a little up. All right, I do have an assignment for everybody here tonight. In front of you, you have a pad and a paper. Don't look, this is pretend. I got you. So here's the deal. You have an assignment, and 750 words. I want you to write an essay about the future of the America's Cup. What is the America's Cup going to look like is your assignment 30 years from now. Now the year is 1980. Dennis Conner has just defended the America's Cup for the United States. It's the 25th successful defense of the United States. He's won it, 12-meter boats. All the crews are amateurs. They're off Newport, Rhode Island. The New York Yacht Club has the club. And now I want you to be creative and write down on your nice essay of what it's going to look like. So let's do this together. I'll be the inspiration, and let me put this essay together. I told you I was going to do that. I'm thinking. Switzerland. Switzerland would hold the America's Cup. Who in 1980 would have predicted that great yachting power, whose most famous mariners were the Swiss family Robinson, who shipwrecked, would hold the America's Cup? Catamarans. Now let's put a catamaran and a trimaran together. Let's pay the crews a lot of money. So much money at the start. One guy's going to be stuck in irons, the other guy's got a penalty turn. And where am I going to do this? Spain. In February. Let's do it in the winter. We'll do it in the winter in Spain. What else? Oh, the owners hate each other. They're going to tie up the New York court system with millions of dollars of lawyers running around for years arguing about minutia on rules. I mean, look. Tomorrow's easy. You got a starting line and a windward leg. You're going to go around the course. Somebody will get there first. Somebody won't be there. And it's over. Before the race, somebody, I predict, is going to say, when we get in, I'm looking forward to having a beer. If we win, we're going to have a beer. If we lose, we're going to have a beer. Either way, we're going to come out and have a beer. We're going to have a mutiny on the race committee vote. Okay, get rid of that. You get the gist. All those things sound unbelievably outrageous, and yet, in February of 2010, every single one of them happened. Which begs the question, what about the future of the America's Cup? Now, to give you a little refresher course, here's the entire history of the America's Cup in 9 minutes. And I hope you enjoy my little shot of our friend Walter at the end. Okay, ready to go? All right, here we go. The America's Cup. Must have been something in 1851 when those upstart New York sailors took America to Britain and beat the British at their own game.
What a historic moment. The 100 Guineas Cup is now the America's Cup.
And things haven't changed over the years. 1899, Thomas Edison took this picture of Shamrock 1 and Columbia spinning around before the start. In 2007, it wasn't any difference. Alinghi and Team New Zealand still spinning around before the start, trying to get an advantage. Thomas Edison used this newfangled motion picture camera, and he used the America's Cup to show off what these boats were like. This is Reliance, the biggest boat to ever sail in the Cup. 1903, she had 74 crew. That's a lot of lunches. Anyway, here she was. The mast was 218 feet off the deck. Wow. Now, here's a couple of shots of Courageous. This is a race we won by half a second. Close one. And I'll never forget coming into the mark at Port Tack. Ted asked me, how fast should we turn? I said, as fast as you can. Ted Hood on the right, on starboard to the right away, and here we are. You be the judge. Do we make it? Thank you. Anyway, great thrill to be with Ted in the cup. Alan Bond, Sir Thomas Lipton, 5-time unsuccessful challenger. There's been a lot of luminaries like Charlie Barr and Tom Sopwith. Let's go back to 1937.
In a fourth and final victory, Mike Vanderbilt's Giants will breezes over the finish line to keep the America's Cup in America. Mr. Vanderbilt is rightfully proud of his cruise victory, but pays high tribute to his rival. Mr. Sopwith has proved himself a most gracious loser. It is easy to be a good winner, but in defeat lies the true test of sport.
Well said, Commodore. Nathaniel Green Harrisoff built, designed, and sailed on 6 successful defenders. Another genius was 8-time winner Olin Stevens.
I was probably happiest with Intrepid as a boat that was a nice advance on what was state-of-the-art.
His boat Intrepid, with the winches down below decks, easily won in 1967. As I mentioned, he won 8 times. But there were controversies along the way. In 1895, Lord Dunraven accused the Americans of cheating. J.P. Morgan, a year later, held an inquiry. Here's a shock. He found the charges unfounded. 1970, Intrepid and Gretel II got into a collision. Gretel II was disqualified. President Roosevelt showed up in 37. President Eisenhower witnessed America's Cup in 58. President Kennedy was there in 62. President Nixon visited in 1967. Dennis Conner was honored at the White House. President Clinton visited in New Zealand. And President Obama had Larry Ellison and the crew to the White House last year. Now, I like when the helmsman and tactician are in sync with each other. Valkyrie blowing out a spinnaker in 1893 off the battery. Shamrock 3 breaking her mast in the middle of a cup race. Vanity with the topmast ripping. Ouch. Dennis Conner in 1987 against New Zealand, blowing out a jib. The French losing a keel and capsizing. Young American, 1999, breaking in half. Luna Rosa breaking a mast. Paul Kayard's America 1 blowing out spinnakers. Team New Zealand in 03, half sinking, and their mast going over the side. But for sure, the most dramatic moment had to be one Australia, cracking in half in the middle of a race and sinking. Skipper John Bertrand had a simple explanation for what had gone wrong. John?
Can you describe what happened on this leg to windward?
Well, the boat broke in half and sank.
Well said, John. The most exciting moment in the America's Cup had to be 1983. Australia 2 and Liberty would bring it down to one race.
And do the job and turn the tables. That's our whole objective.
3-3, a 132-year winning streak was on the line. Would the Australians be ready to take on Liberty and Dennis Conner?
We've learned how to sail against Liberty.
It's going to be very exciting to be involved in the race of the century.
Well, on the 5th leg, the Australians took the lead, got the gun, and broke the New York Yacht Club's winning streak.
Today, Australia 2 was just a better boat, and they beat us, and we had no excuses.
And I'm so pleased that we can say not goodbye to Newport and to many friends here, but an open invitation to to the people of Newport and the people of America to come to Perth in Western Australia and try and win it back.
A sad day for the New York Yacht Club, although they recovered pretty well afterwards. And I was in Australia the day the Cup arrived, 150,000 people and a giant kangaroo. But give Dennis Conner credit. 3.5 years later, on patriotically named Stars and Stripes, we beat the Aussies 4 straight. Which brings us up to our story, the 33rd America's Cup last year. Valencia, Spain. Who would have predicted that? The best 2 out of 3 series. So here we are at the start of the race. The American boat, Oracle, is in irons, to windward of the line. I mean, I could do that. And the Swiss on the right are got a penalty turn to do. So the catamaran's going fast, a half mile ahead by the time the American boat crosses the line. The catamaran sailing 3 times the speed of the wind. It's blowing 6, she's going 18. But look at that, trimaran higher and a lot faster, starts narrowing the gap. Pretty impressive. And in a 20-mile windward leg after 4 miles, at one point almost capsizing here. By the way, this boat has a 238-foot wing mainsail. 238 feet. Wow. They're almost even. That catamaran just wasn't a match. Whoa, look at that! Look out! How do you shorten sail with a wing? Well, you roll up the jib. Now the question is, how fast are you going to go with no jib? Well, we found out pretty soon. Pretty darn fast. Yoo-hoo! Look at that. Can you imagine a guy sailing with no jib and going that much faster than you? That would take your breath away. I wouldn't try that tomorrow, though. Ensigns go better with jibs. But take a look at that wing sail. It was controlled by motors with a guy on a laptop in the cockpit. To give you an idea how big this sail was, here's a comparison to a jumbo jet. 747 and Airbus A380. Look at the size of the wings. And Oracle's wing, twice the area. And I bet they got a good deal on it. Now notice here this curved dagger board that actually went down and acted as kind of a hydrofoil to give the boat lift. In contrast, Valencia had a dagger board that went straight down. So again, Oracle had some more good technology. They also had helium balloons in the holes to make it a little bit lighter. I don't know if it did anything, but it sure psyched me out. Helium? Well, 2 races, and Oracle made it easy, winning by over a nautical mile in both races. So finally, Larry Ellison's multi-$100 million 10-year quest to reclaim the America's Cup, it became a reality. Of course, always the emphasis, what about the next cup? Okay, happy day that day. So Ellison and Russell Coots have decided on another approach. The catamaran. San Francisco Bay, 72 feet long, 46 foot wide, 11 crew, a wing sail. This is the next America's Cup. I'm not sure Olin Stevens would approve. I'm not sure I approve. But anyway, that's a little look. In the meantime, they've been racing these 45-footers. They just ended today, actually. New Zealand won. Sweden was second. Oracle was third. A harbinger. So these 45-footers have been racing, and they do go fast. Race with 4 crew. But I question how stable these things are. All right, Walter, take it away, pal.
People who love the Cup and run one speak of the magnetism and its mystique. The question isn't why the Cup has survived for so long. It's why it has thrived for so long. Someone once wrote, America's Cup is a synonym of things brave and big and famous. To those words, I would add one more, spectacular. No inanimate object is more beautiful than America's Cup yacht in full flight in a stirring breeze, racing for glory and sailing into our affections. And that's the way it is. And that's the way it was.
I'm not done. I just hit the wrong button. So I got to go through the whole thing again. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Hey, did I tell you about our book? Yeah, I'll put that there. Cover that up for a second. All right, so but you can see why. Now I killed my mic.
You don't need it.
You can hear me okay?
Yeah.
So you can see why that was so special with Walter Cronkite at the end, and he never did do another television show to do that. And Walter, when I first got involved in ESPN in 1985, I called him up and I said I had this gig at ESPN and what advice he would give me. And his advice was, well, Jobson, my advice to you is make every word count. Don't say anything the viewer already knows. And anyway, it was good advice, and Walter was a great guy. Now, what about this America's Cup? So we finished our essay. Now you have a new essay, 750 words. What's the America's Cup going to look like 30 years from now? So the year is 2011, and in 2041, when the ensign, and we'll all be here, I hope, we'll still be sailing for sure. The year will be 2041, 30 years from now, what's the America's Cup going to look like? Okay, different inspiration. Back to my Mount Gay. Hey, by the way, how do you like the beard? My wife hates it. But I declared that August I'm taking a month off from shaving. So anyway, all right, let me think for a minute. America's Cup, 30 years from now. 12 meters. Amateur cruise. Good sportsmanship. Newport, Rhode Island, not bad. How about this little concept? How about if we put all the Americans on the American boat, the French on I'm not sure about catamarans, but anyway, that's the way that America's Cup should be. Yep. All right. Are you up for a couple more stories here? Sure. Okay, these are 3 short stories with a message, and I hope you'll take them to heart and share some of this with some younger people. And this is really the theme of the book that I wrote. Do we have any copies left? 20 copies left? All right, well, I hope I'll be happy to sign them, and you guys get the proceeds from the book. So anyway, enough of the book. But anyway, sailing is a sport that I hope you'll agree with me is special. Our best friends in life are those that share the same passion that we do. Anytime you can spend time on the water, it's special. It's magic. I describe it as on the icing of the cake of life is being on the water. And if you wanted to do something special for the sport of sailing, take one non-sailing friend this year, get them on your boat, and let them steer right away. And they too will appreciate being out there in the water. And believe it or not, it's fun to just go day sailing. Racing's nice, but go day sailing. Just for grins. Have a Coke, have a beer. Just go out and enjoy the sunshine. So anyway, I find sailing to be quite the special thing. Now, along the way in life, you never know what twists and turns are going to happen. Just like in a sailboat race. You win the start, you get the first puff, you win the race, it's easy. And the next start, you're winning, and then wind dies and the other side goes in, and you're way back. And that's what keeps bringing us back, the uncertainty of all of it. But I have learned that sailing can really help us when we need it the most. 3 stories. Story 1. Can you remember the first time you went sailing, your first sailboat race? I can. I'm 6 years old, Toms River, New Jersey, and I get invited to sail on a sneak box. The sneak box is a 15-foot gaff-rigged, leaky wooden boat, and as a 6-year-old, I'm given 3 jobs. Job 1, son, here's a bucket and a sponge. You're going to keep the boat dry. Job 2, here's the course chart. You're going to hold it and tell us what buoys that we sail around the Toms River. And 3, most importantly, anytime you get next to another boat, don't ask any questions at that moment. It's the Hodling Trophy. 40 sneak boxes. I'll never forget it. 6 years old, we round the windward mark in the lead. And I had the boat bone dry. I hadn't sent a peep all the way upwind. Then the skipper asked, what's the next mark of the course? I reached into my pocket. The course chart had fallen overboard, and we went to the wrong buoy and lost the race. I never got to sail with those guys again. But a valuable lesson, you gotta always know what the course is. But more importantly, what your goal is. Story 2. So I'm now at New York Maritime College, and it's the Mid-Atlantic Championships, and the top 2 of us are going to go to the Nationals, which I very much want to do. And the first race, we're in this brand new boat that I hadn't sailed before. It was called the Laser. And in the first race, I had a really good start, and I went to hike out, and my foot almost got under the hiking strap, but not quite. Over the side, and by the time I got upside down and turtle and put the centerboard back in, I ended up dead last. D-L. Rated PG tonight. So I'm upset by this, I get last. The next race, I'm coming in on a port approach, and I'm going to get in a hole, but I lose the hiking stick, and I end up hitting the starboard tackle. The rules are not good when you're on port when you hit a starboard tackle. So by the time I did my 720, dead last. D-L. I come back to the dock very upset. My chance of going to the Nationals is slipping away, and I'm upset. I come in and the coach says, look, here's your problem. All you're thinking about is the final result there. Forget that. We're going to go back to the basics, and you're going to do one thing at a time. So number 1, he says, put your foot under the hiking strap. Next thing, don't hit anybody. And then most importantly, he said, and just for fun, since you're last, just go out and have some fun and see how you do, and then we'll talk about it. Well, I kept my foot under the strap. I didn't hit anybody. In fact, I won the next race. And that got me loosened up, and I won every single race in the regatta after that. Did go to the Nationals and ended up winning. Good lesson. Story 3. So fast forward a number of years, and I'm now out in yet another America's Cup, and I'm covering this one at San Diego and ESPN. Can I digress for a minute? Sure. You know, you read Time Magazine, they have little boxes. This is my Time Magazine box. I'll come back to San Diego. But this is, who's working race committee here? You proud? Yeah. That's it?
Very busy.
All right. This is a little tribute to everybody here that's ever worked race committee. Okay. Love the race committee. Okay. Here's my race committee story, then I'll get back to my message. So I'm covering the America's Cup in San Diego, and every morning before the race, about 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock start, on the ESPN announce boat, I get out to the course early and go discuss things with the race committee, and we share information on the weather and, you know, how the Chargers are doing, and anyway, normal stuff. And I had a good rapport with the race committee. And then I'd go off and do my thing, and they'd run the races, and that was it. Well, this one day, I report on the air live that the race committee, the San Diego Yacht Club Race Committee, has not set the course properly. The windward marked straight into the wind, but because the current is sweeping across the course at a knot and a half, the boats are spending far more time on port tack than on starboard tack, and I report this on the air. Well, you can imagine how by the time the race committee got back to the dock, all the patriots at the bar, oh, Jobson was really beating you up today. I have no idea about this. The next morning I come up, steaming up, to say my good morning to the race committee, and they're not so happy. So as I tool up in the announce boat, they pull up code flag Bravo, protest, blow off 2 guns, and with that, 14 members of the San Diego Yacht Club's America's Cup Committee leaned over and mooned me. The sad thing is we didn't have our camera going. Maybe that's good. Okay, San Diego. End of sidebar, back to the main thing. So I'm out in San Diego, and we had about 10 days or so between the end of the trials and the America's Cup, and one of the producers said, Jobson, I got a good idea. I want you to equate the skills of a Top Gun pilot with the skills of an America's Cup helmsman. Maybe there's some analogies here. Now this was very cool because I got to do a takeoff and a landing on an aircraft carrier. I'm sitting there in this jet, all suited up, got the helmet on, and this young lieutenant commander is there. He's probably 28 years old, and we're just getting rolled out there. And in the headset he says to me, "Is this your first time?" Yeah. He says, "Mine too." I've done 215 launches. Don't worry about thinking. I'll tell you what, that aircraft carrier was mighty little. You were going to land this thing on that. Well, anyway, that night on the carrier, we're on the Abraham Lincoln, a couple 100 miles off. We're doing night ops, and I'm standing there with this young lieutenant who's the LSO, the Landing Safety Officer, and these pilots change places with you. So the LSO is talking the squadron on deck, and then he swaps out, and the other guy goes up there. And in between, the squadrons are down on deck, it's quiet. He says to me, "Hey, don't I know you? Aren't you Jobson?" I said, "Yes, I am." He says, "Look, you don't remember this, but you came to my high school one time. It got me so inspired about the Naval Academy. I ended up applying, I got my appointment, my commission. Here I am flying jets, and I feel bad," he told me, "because I never got around to thanking you," which dawned on me at the time, the effect all of us have on people in ways that we never expect. So kind of an interesting moment. Now, as you can see here, and all the stuff I threw up on the screen, I will tell you, I'm mighty lucky. I've had a great sailing career. I've worked hard out of it, but it's really been fun along the way, promoting it and doing it. But I will tell you that at one point in my life, it wasn't smooth sailing. So I'm covering yet another America's Cup. We're down in New Zealand, and that mast broke, but I wasn't feeling good at this time. I had this terrible cough, red blotches all over the place, little nodes popping out of my skin, totally fatigued. I couldn't understand what's going on. And I came home and went off in a lecture tour, and I got to Cleveland. Yeah. I'll tell you, this Cleveland group is organized. I have no idea how they're going to do racing, but they win the tent party, I'll tell you. Well, anyway, I literally crumpled up and got home and got diagnosed with a horrible disease, lymphoma, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now, this was very ironic for me because 10 years earlier, I'd become an honorary chairman, volunteer, raising money for leukemia. I had no connection to the disease at all, and here I was diagnosed with one of these blood cancers. A little weird, ironic twist. And I went through chemo, and it came back, and I did a bone marrow transplant. Let me tell you, that is really tough. And then it came back again. So now, more than a year has gone by, and I'm laying in this hospital bed, and I can no longer walk. I'm 80 pounds lighter than I am standing in front of you. Pretty skinny, and I got really depressed. And this one day I'm laying in the bed, it's about 3 in the afternoon, and I'm calling the nurse, and nobody's showing up, and little tears coming in my eye, and I start thinking, this might be it. So there's nothing left for me to do except lay there. But the sun, I couldn't see anything outside the window, but the sun was on my face, and I just started thinking about sailing. And it was a moment that sailing saved me. I started thinking about being 6 years old on that sneak box and how the lesson I learned was I needed a goal. Well, my goal right now is simply to stand up. And remembering sailing in that Mid-Atlantic Championship one step at a time, and if I could stand up, maybe one step. Don't worry about anything else, and a little fun. It's a darn thing when you're nice to the nurses, they actually come around. And why should I do this? And it dawned on me at that time, like the kid on the aircraft carrier that was now this lieutenant, that if somehow, some way, I could work myself out of this jam, that maybe I could be some inspiration to other people when they get into distress, that they too could work out of the jam. So none of us know what twists and turns we're going to have in life, but I will tell you this, the sport of sailing saved me in my time of need. So anyway, that's my story. Let me just finish up with a couple things. First of all, I wish everybody good sailing here in the next couple days. I've never been to your lake before. As I mentioned, I've sailed at Cuca Lake a few times in scows years ago, but you sure have a beautiful area here. In the ensign class, and one of the reasons a year ago I agreed to come here, and by the way, I did have an invite to go over and be in Portugal this past weekend, be part of it with the America's Cup, but I didn't. I kept to my commitment of being here. Thank you. But in this country, the ensign class is the essence of the sport of sailing. Family-oriented, a boat where, let's face it, any one of your boats can go out and win a race. The boats are even. And I think Olsberg and Pearson, years ago, 1961, did everybody a favor. And the fact that so many of these boats from the 1960s are still out there today, and some of them are looking mighty good, and the new boats are looking good too. It tells you how special this class is. It's an enduring boat, 50 years old, and probably most of us won't be around, but don't you have a feeling that 50 years from now, at some lake or bay or river someplace, the group Ensels will be out there going? It's inevitable. So anyway, I wish you all the best. U.S. sailing, I will tell you, I feel like I'm being Commodore of 5 yacht clubs at once. It's interesting, but I can tell you it's a very diverse sport. Tonight, you're the 78th group that I've spoken in this calendar year. Since January of 05, when I woke up one day and declared myself healthy, I've now done 760 talks around the country promoting our sport of sailing. 760 times all over. Groups just like this, and people love our sport. So the trick here is to enjoy it and to just get other people out there and help our youth be part of it. Now, at the end of this, I want to leave you with one final message, and that is, what is the most important thing in sailing? My whole career has been built around it. The most important thing in our sport is simple. Sailing is all about having fun, isn't it? Thank you very much, everybody.
Before you go, we have another event this evening. A lot of stories. I would like to introduce to you some people from Oasis, Oasis Adaptive Sports, who have worked closely with the Canandaigua Yacht Club here. And I'd like to ask Vito to come up and say a few words.
Good evening. Vito is the short version of Vito Vasiliauskas. When I saw that Lithuanian sailor, I'm Lithuanian. By the way. Yeah. It's okay. Anything Lithuania gets is important. You can. In my official capacity, I'm chairman of the board of an organization called Oasis Adaptive Sports. Oasis Adaptive Sports, Oasis standing for Outdoor Adventures for Sacrifice and Service, is a 3-year-old organization which Bob Hoover, Bob, if you could at least raise your hand, our president started with his wife to help disabled military veterans participate in various sports. We are a nonprofit, 501c3. All our staff, from Bob on down through me, through our board members, through all our instructors and assistants, are volunteers. All services provided to veterans and their families are free of charge. We are unique in that regard. We're also unique in the fact that we, back in Rhode Island, who this year granted scholarships to provide 3 new instructors to the Oasis Sailing Program, as well as 5 scholarships for veterans to complete the U.S. Sailing Keelboat Certification course.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The second, and Mary, you're going to have to come up here, goes to the Canandaigua Yacht Club. Unrelenting, unlimited sponsorship, arms open, doors always open to Oasis. And for that, I thank you, and I thank all of you at Canandaigua Yacht Club. You have to recognize this is quite a prestigious award. That's only the 4th and 5th of those that have been handed out in 3 years that the organization has existed. Afraid? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Vito. Just a little bit of logistics here as the race committee chairman here. I posted earlier this evening a list of boats that need to complete their registration, and you need to complete your registration prior to going racing tomorrow. So the list is in the club bar on the scoreboard there. So if you'd like to check that and make sure that you're signed up correctly tomorrow, that'd be great. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you very much.